All right. Go inside, Dougie. Someone will help you in there.
In there.
Right. And I think you should try to forget you ever met me. Shouldn't be too hard for you. Now, here's $5. Call for help.
Call for help.
Welcome to the Rewatchers in the Lodge. Do you know where your freedom is? Maybe we'll find it in the next hour. You're here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Marcus Marinos,
Riley Harris,
Tyler McKinley,
Mitchell Marshall,
Justin Hammer.
And we are going to be talking about parts 3, 4, and 5 of season 3. Part 3, Call for Help, was written by Mark Frost and David Lynch, directed by David Lynch, aired May 28th, 2017. Part 4 brings back some memories, written by Mark Frost and David Lynch, directed by David Lynch, and aired May 28th, 2017. And Part 5, Case Files, was written by Mark Frost and David Lynch, directed by David Lynch, and aired June 4th, 2017. If you missed anything in those episodes, stay right here because Mitchell's about to hit you with all the facts and figures you need.
Hunker down. Hunker down. Good Cooper goes through a pink cloud into a storage room, a.k.a. the beach, a.k.a. is my TV broken, a.k.a. the room with the flesh-eyed woman. Someone is knocking on the door for like 20 minutes. We've gone full avant-garde. Coop goes up to a panel with the number 15 before following the scared lady through a doorway up a ladder. Now they're in space, in a box, in a submarine, I think. She gets electrocuted into the abyss. Cooper sees Briggs' giant face ghosts fly by and say blue rose, I think. Cooper goes back down the ladder. A woman with eyes is sitting by the fireplace and a blue rose is on the table. At 2:53, a desk lamp goes on. In the desert, Terminator 2 Cooper is driving his Lincoln at 2:53. Good Cooper goes towards panel number 3. The lady speaks backwards. Cooper gets face smoked a couple times. The woman says her mother is coming. Cooper glitches through the panel into Dementor smoke, leaving his shoes. Nicolas Cage Cooper evolution looks and can't control his car and flips it off the road. His vision goes blurry and turns into a red curtain. 1970s, the new Cooper, a.k.a. Dougie, is with a hooker and his right arm tingles. He's also wearing a Fire Walk With Me ring. He has a tummy ache. The hooker showers without a curtain, which is super unrealistic. I hope she mops up after she's done. Now 70s Cooper vomits and sees the red curtain. Mr. C is in his car vomiting till he looks dead. Ron Burgundy Cooper sees Mike in the waiting room. Mike tells him he is manufactured. His hand shrinks and his head goes poof, literally. A golden marble emerges and now he's just a floating burnt potato. Mike puts the ring on the table. An outlet hits the hooker house, pushes out Melisandre's smoke baby, which turns into Cooper, lying next to a neat pile of vomit. Good Cooper this time. Hooker keeps calling Cooper Dougie and helps him put on his shoes as they leave the house where they were trespassing. Coop is mute. 2 criminals are watching them and looking for Dougie. The hooker is about to call AAA. A child spots one of the criminals putting an explosive under Dougie's car. His drug-addicted mother is shouting 119 and drinking Jack Daniels knockoff. Highway Patrol finds evil Cooper's rotting body, I think. Finally, back in Twin Peaks, Hawk hangs up a sign with a donut that says disturb under it. Ayo, get it? Andy, Lucy, and Hawk try to solve Log Lady's riddle. Lucy worries her chocolate bunny indulgence is the problem, which she believes Indians think cure gas. The doctor spray paints his shovels gold. Hooker Jade drops off Coop at a casino. Cooper tries to get help and can barely move. He likes the pretty slot machines and wins the jackpot, seeing a glimmer of the Black Lodge in the air. He wins a second jackpot and a third, and then the dusty old lady wins one. In Chicago, Albert and Cole examine evidence from a case. They're shown the dead body of the Box Watchers and the New York camera files, including the Shadow Killer. Cooper is calling them. But which one? At the Roadhouse, MISSI, and that's how the episode ends. Cooper hellos his way to jackpots on every machine. Bill Shaker, a.k.a. Frankie Stacchino, recognizes Cooper as Dougie. The casino officials take Cooper in the back to give him his winnings and get him a limo home. At Dougie's home, Cooper just stands outside the limo, and an Al hoots, and his wife, Naomi Watts, emerges. He was missing for 3 days and owes somebody a lot of money. Gordon Cole, holy shit, Mulder Denise is back! Lucy doesn't know how heating works or cell phones work. Sheriff Frank is back. Who the hell is Sheriff Frank? There are other cops now, including Bobby freaking Briggs. Bobby still cries every time he sees Laura's homecoming picture. He reveals his dad died in a fire at the station, and Cooper was the last person to see him. Lucy and Andy's boy shows up. You gotta be shitting me. It's Michael Cera as Michael Cera, and he's throwing 1,000 miles per hour, but in a totally different show, and he has a leather jacket that says Wally. This scene is still going. Who wrote this damn monologue? Is he making fun of James? Mike speaks to Cooper from the Black Lodge. One of the Coopers must die. Dougie's kid is seriously named Sonny Jim, and Cooper learns to pee. Pancakes are hard. Gordon and the gang arrive nowhere near Mount Rushmore. Sith Lord Cooper had a Coke, a dog leg, and a gun in his trunk. In a very deep voice, he claims to be undercover and working with Philip Jeffries. The FBI check that Gordon vouched for is suspicious. Albert reveals he gave Jeffries some info long ago. Voice distortion and a blue filter make for a rough conversation between them. They exchange a Blue Rose comment and one more Roadhouse interlude to end an episode. The criminal dudes looking for Dougie are still waiting outside the house. Their boss has a BlackBerry. In North Dakota, our new favorite autopsy lady is checking out the headless body from Ruth's apartment. He had a ring in his stomach inscribed to Dougie. The Wario to our Mario Mr. C gets some prison food and flashes back to indicate his Bob connection. The worst job of interview of all time happens with zero context. New Sheriff Truman's wife is nuts and had a broken pipe. Our Luigi to Mr. C's Waluigi is barely functioning in an oversized lime green sports coat. He owes some bad people $50,000. At work, he makes out with some coffee. Frank loves his green tea latte. Coop's mistress helps him to pee. Jim Belushi and the creepy guy from Prison Break beat up Fleabag's brother-in-law after all the jackpots at the casino. The little kid from the crack house checks out Dougie's car at the hooker house. Some car thieves scare him away and try to hotwire it before setting off the bomb that was attached. The hooker finds Coop's Great Northern key in her Jeep and puts it in the mail. At the Double R, Norma watches as Becky, a.k.a. Mamma Mia, a.k.a. Cazette, a.k.a. Amanda Seyfried, gets more money from her mom, Shelley. Becky's boyfriend was the one who had the horrendous job interview and looks like a low-level vampire. They know some coke in the parking lot. He makes a bad pun, and we get to experience Becky's high with her. Hawk and Andy are still looking through boxes. Jacoby, a.k.a. Dr. Amp, does an alt-left ham radio podcast / Facebook Live. Jerry Horn and Nadine are his biggest fans. This all to just sell $30 gold shovels from the pilot of this third season. At the actual Pentagon, we learn there have been 16 hints of Briggs in the last 25 years, and the most recent one in South Dakota. Some kid won't stop smoking at the Roadhouse and is a rapey a-hole to some teenage girls in the next booth over. The FBI woman who's with Gordon Cole notices that Cooper and Mr. C may not have the same fingerprints. With his one phone call, Mr. C sets off the prison alarms and tells someone Cal jumped over the moon. In Buenos Aires, a box shrinks, and Cooper's been outside his office all night fondling a statue's feet. That felt like a long time.
It's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff.
3 episodes of stuff there.
I've gotten a little tangential, so I don't know how accurate that helps, but whatever.
That felt pretty good to me.
You good?
Yeah.
You all caught up, Marcus?
Well
You
done.
good?
Yeah. Okay. All right. All cards on the table. I wasn't able to finish all the episodes. Today did not go as planned, but holy shit. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
How many did you see?
I saw 2.
Okay.
So I saw 2 episodes. I didn't get to see the third one, but
Okay.
oh boy.
Cool. Well, let's start. Let's start with some of the smaller scenes, some of the familiar faces that show back up. We see Mike. Mike is, I think that you missed this based on your summary.
I did.
He's the asshole interviewer in that job thing.
Oh, I definitely
with
missed that.
Steven. And man, if that isn't exactly where Mike ends up 25 years after Twin Peaks, I don't know
perfect.
where it is. Yeah.
More believable than Bobby as a cop.
I think it's one of those things I was watching. I was like, is it supposed to be because Bobby ran drugs? So they're like, hey, listen, we need your help. Set up cameras on all the things or whatever. Yeah, what a bizarre thing. But yeah, we see him. We see Nadine briefly, just listening to Dr. Amp's thing, which let's talk about Dr. Amp very quickly. But also Jerry, we see him again listening to Dr. Amp's thing. The Dr. Amp segment is one of my favorite payoffs in this season because it's set up for so long. And
Like, man, what are these shovels
You
for?
see him spray painting every shovel. I'm like, all right, we get the idea. Oh, all right. 3 shovels in. Oh,
And
now
got
he's
that
turning them
nifty
around.
machine that
I
turns
love
them
that.
and rolls across.
yeah, it pulls them in front of him and then flips them 180 degrees so you can paint the backside. But just some real philosophical highlights from Dr. Amp's speech. These are just lines that really resonated with me in the current political climate. When Dr. Amp said, the fucks are at it again. That really spoke to me.
That goes for everyone ever.
Yeah. Also, where are the cops when we need them? That was another good one. And then he said, in the immortal words of Pete Seeger, if I had a hammer, guess what? I've got a hammer! And then he hits the shovel. Poetry in motion. Truly the best YouTube channel being produced in Twin Peaks at this time. Any thoughts on Dr. Amp? I don't know. I love that shit so much.
It is funny how his first two scenes are very long and very slow, setting up that. And then he has a straight up like infomercial kicker at the end.
Yeah. Oh, I love what's his cosmic flashlight? Is that what he calls it?
Oh,
He's like,
yeah.
You need a cosmic flashlight. Guess what? I've got one. It's like shining the
got,
light
like, wings
directly
on it.
into the camera. Yeah, it's got wings. Very good. Huge fan. And it's funny, Russ Tamblyn actually tweeted this week, like, I've gotten to play a lot of characters over my career, but thank you so much, Mark Frost, for writing Dr. Amp. He didn't say Dr. Jacoby, it was Dr. Amp.
That's awesome.
He like tweeted specifically about that this week, which is, I think, really wonderful. So yeah, some other familiar faces show up. We see Norma and
Still hot.
Smoking.
Gilf level.
I mean, you've got a type.
Gosh.
yeah, she's definitely. Would you put her on the same level as Olenna Tyrell from Game of Thrones? Is that where we're at? Or
I don't know.
is
They're
it-
still in pretty different age
Yeah.
categories, but I did watch a movie with Helen Mirren the other night, and I was like, wow, I am into old ladies. For sure.
Good. Let's explore that later. So the stuff at the Double R, we're kind of introduced to Becky, who is Shelley's daughter, played by Amanda Seyfried, and she's connected to that awful man from the interview. Not an awful man, that poor drug-addled kid. I don't know what to call him.
Some off relatives of Macaulay
Yeah.
Culkin's, probably.
The actor who always plays gross assholes.
Yeah.
He's so good
It's
at
him.
it.
He's very good. But yeah, I really like. I don't know. Any thoughts on that scene? I really like that scene just because I feel like it plays up the cyclical nature of, like, I mean, we've talked about before kind of cycles of abuse and stuff, and this is kind of just an example of like cycles of bad relationships, abusive relationships,
And she's
destructive
enabling, like,
relationships.
the apple didn't fall far from the tree. And
Right.
she doesn't know how to confront that and try and help her daughter, who seems really, like, upset to have to do it, and the position she's been in. She might even be questioning it, but then that little bit of white powder fixes everything.
Really. Probably one of my favorite shots of this season too is that shot of Amanda
Very
Seyfried from
specific,
above.
and like I wanted to look up that song, I didn't do it, but her just looking up and us hearing that music as she goes along on it, like, it actually reminded me a little bit of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It had some Tarantino
yeah.
feel, just to like observe it with that music really feeling in the background.
Feels like of a very specific time.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so that we kind of get introduced to that. Probably see more of that. Also in Twin Peaks, another contender for greatest character in the world enters in Wally Brando.
Oh my gosh,
Man,
I can't believe that this happened.
I didn't hear the first bit of dialogue because I was laughing so hard.
He's just doing such a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a specific thing. He's wearing the Marlon Brando's exact outfit from The Wild One, talking as if he's in The Godfather. What the hell is going on in that scene? I love every moment of it. And I just love them cutting to Sheriff Truman, who we should also talk about, but just cutting to his reactions. He's like, it's good to see you. All right.
I feel like Frank Truman might be the most relatable character to ever have existed on the show because I feel like the first two seasons established, oh, the rules of this world are everything's wacky.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like, oh, no, normal people exist. They're just somewhere else. And
Well, his wife.
They're doing their real jobs.
and like one of them is like brought into this police station of fuck ups. And that's endure that.
Yeah.
That scene's great because And his performance just encapsulates that completely. I'm like, oh man, I feel ya.
Are they making fun of James?
I don't.
Like, it's not a self-commentary?
I don't
'Cause
think so.
He's straight up like, I'm going to just explore.
yeah,
I think it's definitely more the Marlon Brando.
Yeah, I think it's a
completely.
little more just like, and I think it's the idea that if there were any parents who were like, holy shit, our son has the same birthday as Marlon Brando, and we're going to tell him every day, and we're going to make him watch Streetcar Named Desire and The Wild One and One-Eyed Jacks over and over and over.
I hope they watch Last Tango in Paris with him.
Oh, gosh.
Like, you're 13 now, son.
No one watch it. Just no one watch Last Thing in Paris. Oh, fucking bullshit.
Superman 2. Brando's best work.
Like, gosh, if Michael Cera shows up at some point, just dressed in white, using a different
I
accent,
just don't
like-
understand it.
Oh, it's.
But I like
so
how
bizarre.
weird it is. I said this to Tyler the other day. Like, did you ever watch season 2 of Atlanta? Anyone?
Yeah, I did. I
Okay.
finished it. Yeah.
This, like, those first 4 episodes are all very distinctly different. Like, insanely, like, who they focus on, the style, everything. And it reminds me of that, almost just like Lynch doesn't care to play by your rules, and there is a general story going on. But man, I have less faith than ever that those things are ever going to converge, or that, like, we still get so much of the. I get what you mean now. It took me maybe all 5 episodes to get what you said about how, like, season 2, like, all that wackiness is still kind of there, but the way it's distributed is so different. And watching season 2 is completely worth it, just because if you watch this on its own, I don't think it hits the same way.
Right.
So it's almost like 2 very separate things that are very necessary to go together.
Yeah.
And it's just been enjoyable. I love that every time. I don't know what I'm gonna get or what I'm gonna feel or who we're gonna keep our focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. Like, I feel like in a time where there are so many reboots of old shows and stuff coming back, and it's so predictable because they have to do this, they have to do this. The things that you think David Lynch has to do, he laughs at.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and they are doing exactly the show they want to do in 2017, which I think is what makes it so fascinating.
And then he just does random crap like the Michael Cera thing. And that was an episode after he did the 30-minute thing with Cooper going through this weird room in
Yeah.
space.
Well, and that Michael Cera thing was literally one take. I think Michael Cera was on set for like 2 hours,
Oh my
like
gosh.
all told, like everything.
Wow.
It was basically one take, and David Lynch was like, perfect. I
love you
And
so
he
much.
just like he called him off set like they were done. Like, it's amazing. But yeah, man, what a ride.
Michael Cera just seems like the type who's like, oh man, I get to work with David Lynch.
Oh, yeah, hell
and then,
yeah.
And then he's only there for 2 hours. Like,
And all he wants me to do is what I do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so delightful. So let's talk a little bit more about the other Twin Peaks stuff. So Sheriff Truman is back from fishing.
yeah.
What are you guys' thoughts on Truman 2?
So have they specified that Truman 1 is dead or he's sick?
He's sick.
Okay, that's
I-
what I was thinking, but I just
He
sometimes they say things and I'm like, oh wait, did I misread that? Like,
Yeah, so he's sick. And a few people mention it. Wally Brando comes because Harry Truman, who's our old Truman, is his godfather, which he mentions with just relishing the chance in that monologue. But yeah, so I actually told Riley on the way over. So Michael Ontkean is not in this season. He retired from acting a while ago.
Really?
And they wanted him back, but he just declined. So
Really?
but yeah, so Robert Forster, who plays Frank Truman, he was actually David Lynch's first choice for Harry Truman.
Really?
Back in the 90s, yeah. But he had some scheduling conflicts and was not able to do it, and so he gets to play Sheriff Truman, although it is a different Truman in 2017.
That makes me really sad. Like, he didn't want to come to set for
I know,
one day.
yeah, it's a bummer.
Nobody cares
It's
if
a
you
bummer.
retired. Nobody cares who you are.
Yeah, just show up for a cameo, die on screen.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do something. But yeah, so we meet some of the other sheriffs, or not sheriffs, the other like deputies and stuff at the sheriff's station. Chad, who's a real piece of shit, who like Andy and Lucy hate, which I love that scene where he's talking about the log lady, and they're just like, "Are you gonna this guy, this fucking guy?"
You don't get to talk about the weirdos like that.
Yeah.
I love how there's like an entire separate room for all the real work to be done at the Twin Peaks Sheriff Department.
Yeah. The dispatch is in there.
Yeah.
Crime scene investigators.
They've
are in
given
there.
Hawk and Andy some fake cases over the last few years. Like, yeah, guys, keep going. Yeah, Laura Palmer.
and also Bobby Briggs.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Who, man, that intro shot, I was telling Riley, that's the type of shot that you put in a show that has a live audience because you want to give them time to clap and holler.
Which I did.
Long zoom in as he turns around. He's like got his back to the camera and then turns around in the hallway. It's just the most like hero-ass shot for Bobby Briggs.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot I hate this guy.
The most memorable line, I got to pee so bad my teeth are floating.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. My back teeth are
My
floating.
back teeth are floating.
Yeah. Freaking Bobby Briggs.
Welcome
is-
back.
Yeah, very excited to see Laura Palmer again.
Yeah. Laura Palmer.
And then drops some pretty relevant information, some pretty interesting information. We kind of talked about the secret history, although we didn't know that Briggs was dead. You know, this is we've confirmed that Briggs died in a fire at Listening Post Alpha over 20 years ago, and that Cooper, Doppel Cooper, Evil Cooper, Mr. C, was the last one to see him. Yeah, so we'll see where that goes. Any other thoughts on Twin Peaks stuff? Takes place in Twin Peaks proper.
I want a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
Also, Nadine's alive.
Nadine is
The
like,
question
we
is, who
see
did
her-
that end up with?
Yeah, that is the question. This is the question. We don't know.
And is Bobby Amanda Seyfried's father?
All that stuff is very enjoyable, but it doesn't feel like it's gonna. Most of it, besides Hawk and Andy and Lucy, doesn't feel like it's gonna pay off in any way. It's just fun to see.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I now understand why you said that. Like, a lot of people, like, why there's such a distinction that people not calling this season 3 per se as more specifying that it's the return, because it doesn't. Most of it doesn't take place in Twin Peaks,
Yeah,
and
it's different.
it doesn't
It's very
feel
different.
about Twin Peaks anymore. It feels about Cooper
Yeah.
off on his
Is
crazy.
it too
drug
much
trip.
Cooper? I don't say that as criticism, but like, I mean, we haven't even been back to that South Dakota town to like we haven't seen Matthew Lillard.
What do you
What,
think?
did you
What do you
just
think,
look at yourself?
Riley?
It's a lot of Cooper just not doing anything interesting,
Yeah, it's
in
tough.
my opinion.
Hello.
I don't love it.
And then Evil Cooper just being nasty and
Yeah.
yeah, it's there's I mean I hope it's paying off, but it's something.
I enjoy it.
I like everything.
Yeah, I love it.
I like everything that Cooper is doing. I like everything with his story so far. In my opinion, I don't love the editing choices. I feel like these 3 episodes could be condensed to an episode and a half and be more enjoyable. I think every scene breathes way too long, whereas like that loses its effect. It's the same. It's like, I mean, that's cinema. You use one effect too much, it loses its effect.
I definitely understand what you're seeing there. I feel like I've gotten to the point, especially now with these episodes, where it's just full Lynch, where it's just like, you have to come to accept that and just understand that there's going to be a lot of that.
It's how he wants to
Yeah.
tell it. And if he listens to our podcast, which there's a chance, he just turned it off.
Oh yeah,
That dick. Just kidding.
All right, well, now that he's not
I
listening-
mean, at least I'll get a good rant out of it.
Now can I?
My dream
That
is to
shower
say
was
that
too
I
long?
my dream is to have David Lynch just tell me something I'm doing is wrong or the opinion I have is wrong by using the F word a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
If there's someone to get verbally abused by, it's David Lynch.
David Lynch, I watched Twin Peaks on my phone. Please forgive me. I like all the Cooper stuff because there were times in the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks where I felt like I wasn't getting enough, and now I'm finally getting it all.
Andy's not in Firewalk with me. Well, enough. He's
Right.
a little piece.
Yeah.
I mean, you could make the argument we haven't gotten any Cooper.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit robbed of how like much
Very
Cooper
true.
quote unquote we're getting, but he's not being Cooper. It's which once again story plot line I like. I don't like him making faces at the kid from Looper for like what feels like 20 minutes while we're eating pancakes. Like
It's
Sunny
kind of
Jim.
sad. It's sad to see him like not himself and just kind of like a shell walking around.
Well,
You
I-
could hear when words set him off like coffee and agent.
Yeah, I mean, I think my opinion on that stuff. I disagree. I don't think it's too long. I think that what you're seeing is such a gradual waking up. You know what I mean? Like if you see him, I think specifically of like the scene. I don't know why this scene stuck out to me, but when he meets with the pit boss. Do you know what? Let's go back. Let's talk about Olive Cooper, and we'll talk about that when we get there. Let's talk about Cooper leaving. He's right where we left him last time, which was falling through space. And he lands on what looks like a Nine Inch Nails or Tool video from the early 90s. And then goes inside to reveal it is, in fact, a Nine Inch Nails or Tool video from the early 90s. So there's a woman with scars over her eyes and presumably no vocal cords who electrocutes herself into space so that another woman can be in the room who does have eyes. This is all coming across perfectly correct, right?
Yeah, and then you get sucked into a giant electrical outlet.
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
Yeah.
I feel like I really enjoyed this scene as far as his use of the effects that he does, of the like cutting and reversing, and the sound in this scene is very effective. The cuts to just the close up of that skewed angle, that doorknob that's like just threatening. It feels very menacing. Everything is done very effectively in this sequence, and it makes you feel really uneasy.
Yeah.
And which I think in this case, like the length helps that, and the slow pace of it, and then we just get that. Honestly, this is going to sound really weird. I can't think of a better example. Obviously, very much darker, but when they crawl out into like the top of this room in space, it felt like almost something out of like a kid's show on public television, like Reading Rainbow or Wishbone. Just, I guess the special effects quality reminded me of that more so.
What do you guys think of the special effects? Because all throughout it, I've seen better
Intentional.
special effects, but like, do you guys feel like they're very stylistic, or do you feel like
Like it was intentional or it was a budget? Is that what you're asking?
I definitely think it's intentional, but why do you think it is that way?
I think he doesn't care. I think as long as the feeling is there, and I think he's doing enough with sound and with his characters that he doesn't need it. This is one I legitimately thought 10 minutes in, I was like, this is it. This is a full episode. We're doing this. He's just going to be like, screw it. I'm going to take an hour of Showtime's Sunday night slot, and we're going to do this shit. But so when it ended, I was a little disappointed, a little surprised. But yeah, I think the feeling, if he can get that feeling across, I don't think he cares about the quality. And so maybe it was like, it's not worth the extra money compared to other things I want to do. Or maybe it's just like he potentially wanted the lesser quality because that gave more of the tone that he wanted.
I also think, for me, I think it serves a couple purposes. It clearly delineates the effects, especially the Black Lodge effects, clearly delineate a reality and something different. You know what I mean? And some kind of dreamlike state. I think for me, like, it separates that. It also feels, and I'm probably reaching for this, but I just think about this shit too much, is they're so digital. It feels like a commentary a little bit on modern filmmaking stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and the shift in medium, because you think about those first two seasons of Twin Peaks and Fire Walk With Me are shot on film. This is the only stuff that's shot digitally. And I think that there's weird shit that David Lynch chooses to do when he shoots on digital. Like in Inland Empire, when he shoots on a Sony DV camera and smears the shit out of it for 3 hours. Like, that's what he does. But I think part of it too is like they're usually readable. Like, I think about the Dougie Jones thing with his head disappearing. That's one of the better effects, I think, in this show. But the orb that comes out of it is like very distinct and separate from everything else. Like, it doesn't feel realistic or fully in that world.
It feels like 2 decades behind. 3D.
Yeah. And so to me, that's what I've always read this season as, is that it is more about communicating these little pieces of information without giving that much information necessarily, but just delineating these separate things. But I don't know. I like it though. It doesn't look like anything else either. You know what I mean? It's not like, I don't know. It's weird.
It's different. It's
definitely
extremely unique.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I haven't really decided how I feel about it. I guess I just want to know. For me, I want to know the why behind all the behind all the decisions. Like,
It's
okay,
interesting
why
too,
is
'cause
it
I
taking
feel like
so long?
the practical effects are a lot better. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like it's weird because that one with his head disappearing is so distinct. Of you have his head disappearing, and the little floating thing of flesh with a little mouth, and then the orb, which I feel like are all on 3 different levels of quality.
Yeah.
And that little prosthetic thing with the mouth looks really good, I feel like. Whereas that orb looks, like on something I'd see out of an animated show from the late 90s, like very Men in Black or something. Like, it's a weird gap in quality between those things, and like stuff in the first episode too, I feel like was a little bit better too. But like you said, like stuff that happens in the real world felt like it was a lot better.
Well, I think too, like you think about the experiment, and it's literally like when they get murdered, it's literally a video effect, like moving back and forth on top of them while they're practically getting sprayed with blood. You know what I mean? Like that's
Right.
so it is it's a bizarre thing for sure. But yeah, so let's kind of keep talking about that. So we also see Garland Briggs' head float by and say the words Blue Rose.
I'm glad I was right about that. 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't know if I was a little high, but
I mean, you probably weren't. And then when Cooper does go back in, there's a new woman there who has her eyes, and it is Phoebe Augustine who plays Ronette Pulaski in
I didn't
the
realize
first
that.
2 seasons of Twin Peaks.
Oh,
wow.
did not know that.
But is not credited as Ronette Pulaski in this show. She is credited as American Girl. Don't know what that means.
From the song. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then Cooper trades places with Mr. Jones.
The number on the wall has changed.
Yes,
Yeah.
goes from
The nailing.
15 to 3.
Right.
Right.
Isn't there a 4 in there at one point? It's like 15, 4, and then 3? Or is I don't remember.
Maybe I didn't catch a 4.
I
Yeah,
didn't
I'm
see
not
I thought it
Maybe-
was just 15. and
maybe I'm
3,
remembering
which is
wrong.
the same number as the room that the key is for.
Yeah, his room at the Great Northern.
Nice
is-
catch. Nice catch.
Yeah, and then the other number thing that we have come up here is at 253 that
Which
lamp
is
turns on.
One number we were given in the first episode. Is that
Yeah,
right?
the arm. He gives him 253 time and time again, whatever.
But we haven't seen the first number given to us, right? The
430.
430. Yeah,
430.
I don't believe so.
This is someone.
So wait, where did 253 show up?
The arm says that to Cooper.
Oh.
The evolution of the
Right.
arm. He says 253 time and time again, and then he's like, "Go now, now!" And then he gets thrown into space. But yeah, so he comes out after Mr. Jones has gotten what we'll call a ride from Jade, because Jade does give 2 rides.
It's first right.
Yeah, ride 1 has concluded. Man, that hair and that
Ooh.
jacket.
Man, Doppelcoopers really know how to
Yeah.
style.
So and then so I guess what do you guys think what do you guys think about Dougie Jones? Because the only other scene we have with him, I mean, we'll refer to him as Dougie Jones for now also, but the real Dougie Jones goes into the lodge, is destroyed, is shrunk down to something until he disappears. And Mike does tell him you're made for a purpose, or you're manufactured for a purpose, that he says. And it seems that purpose has been fulfilled. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you have any?
I'm a little confused by it because they implied the clothes are too big. Was he, when we first see long-haired Dougie in the bed, is he super big?
He's bigger.
He's bigger.
Yeah.
Because I
than
think
Cooper,
what's her face mentions that, doesn't she? Like,
and lose some weight.
yeah.
With the haircut and the weight, clearly his face stayed the same. But like, I'm almost wondering if his body was the one in Buckhorn, but that thing was even bigger. But he gets his head removed later. We know the ring was involved at some point. Like, I don't know. It's a mix-up job, but clearly he was kind of a sleazeball. I like the Vegas feel. It's very accurate because like, yeah, there's the casino side, and they do that just fine, but I think it's just as good as like Breaking Bad was with New Mexico. Like,
I agree.
This
yeah.
is what a suburban Western like town kind of feels like. It's like the color, there's a lack of excitement. If you've ever been to Henderson, Nevada, if you've ever like actually veered out of busy Las Vegas, you're like, oh yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the suburbs.
Well, and especially post-recession,
Right.
You know, like the idea that they can just go to some empty house
Yeah.
and get it on and then leave. You know what I mean? Like there's just these empty houses in the suburbs.
Which
and
they seem to slap in your face the development. I can't remember the name, but it starts with 2 R's, and the 2 R's are circle.
right,
much
Rancho
like
Rosa.
Aren't they
The
aren't they're mentioned at the very beginning of isn't that the same name of like one of the production companies
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
production
Yeah,
company.
that's-
It's
yeah,
like
that's what I was thinking.
their holding company for this season. Yeah,
Which
is
it
Rancho
seemed
Rosa.
like a reference to the Double R Diner to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know for what purpose, if it's just to be fun or if it's like there's a connection. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Also, kind of in talking about other maybe more tenuous connections, he lives in a subdivision that is apparently all the streets are themed after King Arthur. He lives on Lancelot Court, which also ties into the Glastonbury Grove.
Oh, and they passed
like that
Sycamore
with all the-
Street.
Yes, yeah, they
Yeah.
do. Yeah, they passed Sycamore Street.
There's a red door.
which is much like a curtain.
yeah, true. Red is
That's
very
true. I
important.
actually didn't even put that together.
So is this so? We get that Dougie was manufactured for a purpose that has supposedly been fulfilled. So is his purpose that he was a total moron, so that like everybody around him, when they meet real Coop, just assumes that this is this is just how he is. Apparently, like nobody's like, did he have a stroke? Like,
Yeah,
get this
I'm
man
most
to a
worried
hospital.
about Naomi
like, what is
Watts'
going on?
character's health.
Yeah.
Like,
Nobody suspects that Coop is like having a hard time or something. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh, Dougie,
Yeah,
It seemed like maybe
you wanted my coffee.
Mr. C wanted, he's like, if Good Cooper has to come back into the world, I can take this guy's life. I don't know. It seemed he was setting up some sort of diversion so he didn't have to go to the Black Lodge.
Yeah.
But if that works, but it seems like the Black Lodge knew what he was doing and they let him do it anyway.
well, it seems to me that so the ring was on him, right? Mm-hmm. Somehow he used the ring to create some sort of so in my mind, it's that he's split off.
so you're
from
saying who are you?
sorry,
saying? Go ahead.
Shadow Cooper.
Okay,
He's kind of split off from him in a way because they both go through this seizure, uncomfortable thing at the same time when Cooper's trying to come back, and they both vomit up this garbage that's like
Nasty,
yellow and
yeah.
black, and but Shadow Cooper vomits up a lot more of it, where Dougie only has like this little small pile. To me, it's a piece of him that's kind of split off and is used. I don't know how necessarily. Maybe it's because he's wearing the ring and he's a stronger attraction to Cooper coming back. I don't know, something along those lines of he was made as just
Decoy.
Maybe
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's the word I'm looking
maybe
for,
like
decoy,
a
yeah.
Voldemort Horcrux
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. Okay.
and
I
and
could
that's
see something
why.
like that.
And in my mind, it wasn't so much that Dougie himself was stupid the whole time. It was more that because he's not a full part of Cooper's shadow self, that he doesn't become full Cooper when he's in him. So he's only just like the most base intelligence symbol of real Cooper when he does come back.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, the Black Lodges or whatever, they're trying to help Cooper somehow. Mike is trying to help him. You see those markings above the slot machines.
Yeah.
Like it's like the most roundabout way to get him to a safe place as you could go is like, okay, I guess you're going to win hundreds of thousands of dollars so people will notice you and give you a limo. Which that sequence I love so much. And just, I don't know if you guys have ever watched Mr. Show, but Mike Ennis, who's one of my favorite guys from Mr. Show, he's the guy that Dougie watches pull the
really?
first hello guy is Mike Ennis. He's awesome. But yeah, then we just get the hello just constantly, and I love it so much. So he's back, sort of. we have a couple of those scenes.
Oh, also, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, potential side theory of why he's... Or I can't say that word.
Work that time down, Justin. It's not me for once.
It's not you for
Usually
once.
I say the offensive thing.
Yeah, he doesn't have his shoes. His shoes are gone.
They get...
There's some symbolism and some mythology. I remember. I don't know what I'm referencing, but that like the shoes were important to a person's identity or something.
So maybe he has to walk a mile in Dougie Jones' shoes.
And maybe this is just because my son is always like he's obsessed with bringing shoes to people and being like and saying who owns the shoe. He'll point at me like Mom. I'm like, yeah, those are Mom. So I'm thinking maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I don't know.
I mean, what are on the bottom of our shoes? Souls.
Yeah.
Hey. Whoa.
He's joking, but
Crack
really
the
this
case.
is he's seen
But
it.
honestly-
He knows.
We
He
see
is wearing Dougie Jones shoes, though. He's not
someone
wearing his
else
own.
like moves. Well, his get knocked off. It shows that as he
Yeah.
goes through the hole in panel number 3 or whatever. But there's someone else who gets their socks or their shoes kicked off somewhere when they go. But I don't know. But I think it's a recurring.
Dougie in the lodge. He doesn't have his shoes
Okay.
on.
Yeah, as he goes to the lodge and as he comes out of the lodge. Okay.
Yeah.
Or not the lodge.
The red room.
Yeah.
The
The waiting room.
in between this. Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Sorry, that was a huge
No,
thing.
no, that's good. There's a couple other moments I want to talk about Dougie. We have a couple glimpses that Cooper is in there. The coffee thing, him drinking that coffee incredibly too fast. I love that moment.
I did
that
too.
face that he makes. He's hunched over, and she's like, "Dougie," and he's like, "Hi."
Does the coffee like sizzle when it hits the floor? Like
think
it's
so.
so
Yeah, yeah,
hot,
I'm pretty
it, like,
sure it's
sizzles.
yeah.
Oh man, a Dougie moment I really liked is when he's in the limo and the limo driver drops him off, and he's just sitting there as the limo driver gets out of the car, and then when he approaches the door, he does this little like, like he's scared. He forgot about it.
I will say, Kyle MacLachlan's performance is so good. Like,
Great.
when he's with Jade and she's like pushing him out of the car, and he's just tilting out of the car. Like, it's just the greatest. I just love that stuff. Oh, and the other moment I want to talk about is when he's with the pit boss. You get this very clear idea that he is literally just mirroring everything around him, which we get. Like he mimics speech. But when the pit boss goes to push the money across the table,
He starts
he
pushing
also
it too.
starts pushing until it's like in the middle, and they both stand up and lean into each other. And he says, "You've got to make me a promise that you'll come back and try your luck again sometime." And he's like, "Come back," or something. He says, so I can't remember what it is, but just those moments, and then you have those very brief moments where he's not mimicking anything, when he's just drink scalding coffee. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, he owes a bunch of money. There's people trying to kill him. Which I don't know. Again, if we're going with the Cooper thing, if we're going with the like Shadow Cooper thing, is that part of the plot that Shadow Cooper was like, okay, Cooper's gonna go into this body and he's just gonna get fucking murdered by these guys that I hired, and then I'll be free forever? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Oh, I totally forgot about those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Who were just waiting there for days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This car's still there. I don't know. Lights might be on. We haven't
One guy
looked,
pulls out
really.
a gun from Borderlands out of just the foot of his car. Just,
In a neighborhood.
Cooper's bent over like casually. Just
Yeah,
happens to
because
work
he
out
dropped
timing.
the key. It's bent over. Yeah. Yeah.
It's- I like they throw a red herring out there when they have another car full of like hoodlum looking people go by, and it turns out they're just waiting to see if this car is still there for them to see if they can steal.
Right.
And then they end up getting blown up. But yeah, she implies that he has a gambling and drinking problem, and so I'm guessing these guys are loan sharks. He says he owes $50K too. I'd kill someone if they owed me $50K. So that's like my guess.
Don't take money from Mitchell ever.
It's an investment. It's an investment.
It's an investment.
Marcus is looking at me because we know the NFL season starts
You told me
next
I
week.
could build my own business. I haven't sold anything.
You got time.
But
You
it's
told me I
running
could be
out.
my own boss.
Don't listen to everything on my YouTube channel.
Okay, so Dougie Jones also goes to work. He works at an insurance company. Calls out some other sleazy guy for lying. Again, drinks more coffee.
The way he attacks that coffee cup, like,
Delightful.
brings joy to my soul.
We've
Man,
got
I think my favorite bit is the guy with his green tea.
yeah.
It's the best.
We were talking about that. Like, the thing I love about Dougie Jones is it feels like he's just such a, like, with Cooper as Dougie Jones, he feels like it's just pure, like, positive karmic energy that he exudes because everything around him goes right. He can steal someone's coffee, but because there's a free green tea, that man gets to learn that he loves green tea probably more than coffee, which he always gets and never drinks. Like, what? Like, he also survives assassination because he drops his keys. Like, he's like the Mr. Magoo of Twin Peaks.
He wins 100, like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Gosh.
Was it like 417,000 or something like
Yeah,
that?
something like that.
Absurd amount of money.
But yeah, what a bizarre thing. But yeah, his job's in danger.
Seems like he's sleeping with that chick who had just spurned
Yeah.
another married man.
Yeah,
He's like,
which
you're
is weird.
married. And then she's like, I'll let you in the ladies' room.
And he's clearly making distressed noises like he's going to crap his pants. And she says,
Yeah.
I think I'll let you kiss me now, or whatever it is. Like, let the man through. Come on.
What a dreamboat.
Also, is there the scene with the elevator with everyone on the elevator in this,
Yeah.
where he's the
He's just
only one
standing
facing the wrong way and directly in front of the door, and the door opens and it just sounds like junior high in there? Like, hey, woman!
When someone farts in the locker room.
That made me reevaluate how I get on elevators, though. Like, why do I stand facing the door like this? Why do we do this? Why not stand the other way?
That's not how we enter.
Yeah, we
I'm
turn
gonna-
around and we get on.
I'm
Come
going to
on.
stand Dougie direction from now on.
Dougie direction.
And then we basically leave. So Cooper leaves work that day and is entranced by a statue of
man
presumably
pointing
a lawman. Yeah, kind of whatever, holding a gun, which again feels like that very. He's drawn to that for a very specific reason. And I love the end of this episode where you just see him. It's like clearly evening, like the sun is setting and he's still there looking and touching the statue, and then credits just roll over him.
Which, like, what the fuck,
it's
Naomi Watts? You
great.
forgot that you were this man's only ride.
Where's Jade? Why-
Yeah, where is Jade?
But also, he's very, like, attached to the shoes at the end there, which
Right.
he was
Yeah,
missing.
true.
So there's my shoe theory coming through.
Yeah.
Where's my soul?
I actually do have there's a really specific story about that statue that I don't think will inform our reading of this, but David Lynch actually commissioned that statue to be built based on a picture of his father.
Really?
So his dad, when his dad was 19, he worked at a fire tower. And anyways, he said this. He said he had to hike once a week for 5 hours to get water and food, and then hike back and then climb way up in this tower to scout out smoke and fire and call out to the firefighters if he saw anything. I'm not sure if he took the first selfie, but with the string, he managed to take a picture of himself holding a pistol out in that stance, and that was the impetus for the statue. So he basically had this this selfie that he took decades ago, and commissioned this statue to be built. Just kind of rad, just kind of a cool little production thing. But yeah, so that's kind of where we leave off with Dougie. Not a whole lot else going on with him yet. We do meet the Mitchum brothers, who are the casino owners, played by Jim Belushi and Robert Nepper, who I love.
It's so good.
They remind me, if we're making connections again, they kind of remind me of the Horn brothers.
Yeah.
They've got 3 women that are with them in weird uniforms.
cocktail waitress.
Yeah. And they just beat the shit out of that guy because they lost $425,000.
They
It's
run
understandable.
Three-Eyed Jacks in Vegas somewhere.
Yeah.
I got
It's the Total Recall themed brothel in Vegas that everyone loves.
with casting for this. I'm curious. Was there like a thought to like we get some people, some like recognizable faces, like because we've said now all these different actors and actresses who have come in. Was that an intentional thing or just a fun thing? Like I almost think David Lynch would shy away from something like that. Well, I think if you're going to hire someone familiar, he would hire them to do something unfamiliar, which he didn't. Like maybe Jim Belushi's doing that, but Michael Cera's not.
Right.
I'm just curious if you've read anything about like the casting and if there was like a positive or negative to getting familiar faces, because even the douchebag that Dougie sees in the casino hit the girl on his arm. She's like fairly famous. Like I recognize her from
Yeah,
stuff.
Ernie Hudson.
That
is
dude's
the,
from I Remember the Titans and My Name is Earl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's from Boy Meets World.
And Ernie Hudson was the Navy guy. Is that Air Force, Navy? I can't remember. Yeah.
I was real happy we got Denise back. I don't think she's doing anything else. But like that, and if she's not, then same with Michael Cera. Like, okay, we're gonna bring in this famous person to do this one thing. Like that might be the most fan servicey thing they do if she doesn't come back, which I don't think she is.
Let's actually talk about it real quick because that just reminded me. Did anyone notice anything weird at the end of the Denise Bryson scene?
That nothing happened. I'm still confused by the purpose of that scene because I was like, "Oh, he's here to ask a favor." No favor was asked, and then it was just at the end. It was like, "Okay, sweet."
Kind of like I'm doing this.
He's getting permission to go to South Dakota because he comes in because Denise Bryson is now the head of the FBI.
The chief of
Right.
staff.
Okay.
Yeah. And specific, I think also specifically Tammy, which we do get this nod to be like, Gordon,
Yeah.
come on, you sly dog. Like
I'm old
really,
school.
Yeah, yeah. Change your hearts or die.
You do such
But
a
I
good
mean,
role.
I feel like, but like, does she ever say like, yeah, like any sort of like answer? Because I feel like,
Well, because she basically at the end she says, "Is Albert going with you?" And he's like,
Do
"Do
birds
birds fly?"
fly?
Yeah. And she's like, "All right." And he's like, 10-4, good buddy. And they shake. You know what I mean? So I think that's just
okay,
kind of the
I just must have
implication
missed it.
There's the hand wave that Denise does when after Gordon walks out, like a flustered. I don't know, like it's like sexually aroused or something. Maybe I don't even know.
I would say maybe go back and watch that specific moment, because in that shot, Denise's movie, it's been reversed.
Really?
So that fluttering hand thing, it's because there's a moment where she looks back at the door. You can very clearly tell it, and when her head turns back forward, and the hand movement is it's reversed. There's one other moment that has been reversed. It's actually a Dougie Jones moment we didn't talk about, is when he looks at Sonny Jim in the car and he cries, which I think is a really touching moment because I feel like part of that is Cooper inside realizing he's missed 25 years of his life and missed a family. But there's a moment when Sonny Jim blinks that is clearly also been reversed.
There's another theory, right? Sonny Jim, if Dougie is his father, is technically half Black Lodge abomination. So
you're going to say that we're going to possibly see another creamed corn magic trick?
but like also there's a spot where Cooper as Dougie is sitting in the bed in the house and he looks at the chair and there's an overlap of Mike and the Black Lodge and they talk.
Yeah.
The camera does something weird there. It's almost like a snap to a wider lens. It's very subtle, and it does the same thing later when he's looking at him in the car, when it looks at Sonny Jim in the car. So to me, he's got something's up with Kid from Looper. Right? That's the same kid?
Yeah.
Okay. Because he doesn't talk. He just laughs.
Mm-hmm.
Got weird camera pannings. Clearly reversed camera. Like,
He does the thumbs up. He does the Cooper thumbs up, which then Cooper then also imitates.
the kid's Satan. He's what's his name from season 2?
He's Little Nicky.
Little Nicky brought back.
He's little Sonny Jim.
Quick question: do any of these visual hiccups, for lack of a better term, do they have any story significance, or are they just Lynch, or that you know of, or is it Lynch just being on a different level of thinking than we are on a different plane of existence?
No, I mean, I think everything is very specific. I don't think that there's anything that's just, oh, I like this. This is a fun moment. Like,
well, I mean, is it? I guess I should say, is it anything we're going to be able to connect?
That's a hard question to answer. That's this show. It's hard to answer questions like that for this season of Twin Peaks because
I went back and watched that when she gets shot in the first episode, and I thought it was like a weird like blur, but it's actually like it's a layered another shot that's kind of also distorted.
Yeah.
Where there's two of her. So, but I have zero clue what that means.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
other than that timeline theory, that could be that. I don't know.
Right. And here's the thing. It's again, some of this is just stuff that I'm noticing that we throw onto the pile of information that we have. That then at some point you begin to pick things out of and try to build them into something.
Just so you all know that we know things.
Yeah. Well, and it is just but to draw attention to those things because they're so specific and so intentional.
Yeah. I had no question they were intentional.
So,
I was just wondering if they would, for at least half the viewers, if anyone would connect to those things, or if it's like only the people who are willing to like dissect code out of files and put those into a 3D imager and wrap them around a cone and find out what what the image is.
I mean, it's not anything like that. There's nothing outside of Twin Peaks. Like, you're not gonna be doing anything like that. All the information is there, but there's a fuck ton of it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, so let's talk. I guess we get more Albert and Gordon. They meet Doppel Cooper. Did you also pick up on Cooper when the first thing he says to Gordon Cole, when he says, "I'm very excited to see you," and then Gordon Cole says, "I'm very, very excited to see you." Like, Mr. C says that first very backwards. So he says, "I'm Irav, very excited to see you."
I didn't catch it. Part of it probably because my audio sucks on my TV, and that his voice is like distorted. There.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's because of like just the in-world microphone type of thing, or if that was supposed to be like a stylistic choice.
I think that's a result of the state he's in after the vomity. I think he's kind of in a weird, bizarre state because he's way less smooth in that scene than we've seen him with, like when we saw him with Ray and Daria. He doesn't seem as quick. He's slow. His speech is really slow and muddy, which I to me is kind of a result of the physical toll that he's just gone through in staying out of the Black Lodge.
But he's still smart enough to like.
Yeah,
I mean, he had them call them.
Yeah,
he makes the connection to David Bowie. Like, he clearly is still able to execute his plan.
Right, for sure. And then Gordon sends Albert to find a woman who they are going to consult with on Cooper.
And during that scene, he turns down his hearing aid.
Yeah.
Or he turns it way up, sorry.
Yeah, way up. Yeah,
so that they can whisper, and that is a sound scene that I won't forget.
Yeah.
At first, it was just really bothersome, but then it becomes really interesting because there's almost also this blue filter, it looks like, on the camera, and they also have a third person with them, like a younger female agent who he seems to find promising, but we don't really know much about yet, although she seems a little suspicious of everything going on.
Right. And that is the character, the Secret History character that compiled and that we were talking about. That's Tammy Preston, who had basically taken all of Garland Briggs' stuff and gone through it and compiled.
That moment where he does turn his hearing aid up, and there's just this long pause with a weird audio distortion. Is there something buried in that at all?
Yeah, I think there might be. I mean, there's a couple things in that scene. I think anytime you hear specific electricity or something that could be connected to electricity, I think that's relevant. Like, because he makes Tammy go away because she's wearing the wire.
Yeah.
And like right before that, you kind of hear this crackle of this kind of indistinguishable crackle before he says that, which maybe insinuates that they're. And then we watch Mr. C use electricity and dials a phone number and completely downs the police station or whatever. Like, is really weird.
I think the whole connection with electricity is very much more apparent in these episodes. Yeah. Whereas with the other episodes, I might not have connected that right away if we had not talking about it.
Right.
But talked about it. I was like talking.
I was going to let it go.
I was mixing spoken. I'm glad you guys can understand my gibberish. I probably do that so often. But I was specifically looking for certain sound cues in these episodes, and I think I remember hearing like kind of the record player scratch at one point, but I don't remember where. I forgot to write it down.
Okay.
Do you guys remember?
Yeah, I'm trying to
hearing
remember.
that at all?
I remember hearing
I
it.
remember a specific moment in these ones.
It might. I think it was in the first episode.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, there's definitely more of that, and yeah, we'll definitely see more. I guess the last thing I want to talk about does have to do with the piece of shit in the roadhouse that just basically rapes that woman in broad daylight almost. In the credits, that character is credited as Richard Horn.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Wait.
Fucking horns, man.
What's the name of not Donna? Wow.
Audrey.
Audrey's brother.
Not that. It's. Don't forget it's
Jimmy.
No, Johnny.
Johnny,
Yeah. Don't forget it's Johnny
So,
Horn's birthday today.
Presumably, this would have to be either Audrey's child or his, or like one. Maybe there's another Horn brother, or
Yeah.
one had an affair with
Could be
someone.
Jerry's
as a
brother
kid,
or
'cause-
kid.
Yeah,
True. Yeah.
Jerry does seem like a slut, but like a fun, like hippie slut, you know.
So good. So fun.
Good kind of slut.
I don't like that he kept smoking, and the guy was just like, "Oh," he tells the employee, some big gruff guy comes up and, "I'll take care of it," and he's like, "Give me one," and they're just exchanging money, probably for drugs.
Well, it's the cop from.
Yeah, it's Chad.
Oh yeah,
Fucking Chad.
Fucking Chads.
Fucking Chads.
but then no one comes back up and don't smoke, and then the girls are like, "Light us up," and I'm like, "Hey, there's a no smoking sign."
Not only are
I
you a
was-
bad example, you're also going to attack her?
I was also very pissed about that not smoking thing, like more than I feel like I should have been.
I'm not the biggest rule follower, but don't smoke next to a no smoking sign.
Well, it bothered me because I'm like, oh, he thinks he's super badass because he's smoking next to a smoking sign, and then he tells that guy to like fuck off. I'm like, I hate these guys. I hate people like this in real life. I know them. They
So
suck.
James beats him up.
Oh man, James might go up a little bit in my book if he beats that guy up. James, you weren't
arc.
always cool, but you're starting. It's never too late.
Yeah, so I guess any other theory, anything else you guys want to talk
I
about?
want
feel like
to.
we've covered
I
a
mean,
lot
we
of
saw
stuff, but-
Briggs like face floating through, and we hear the word Blue Rose. We also hear that Briggs died 25 years ago, but there have been like 16, I believe they say, like different references or people saying like there have been these connections or sightings or things to have to do with him. So I think he's going to be back in some maybe metaphysical manner. But he says Blue Rose. We see a Blue Rose in the weird room, and then we hear Blue Rose one other time. But clearly that represents something. I don't know if I have no theories, but I'm interested how that comes back.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any theories about the
I've
Blue
already
Rose?
spat on mine.
I don't
Tyler,
have any.
do you-
I don't
I'm
know yet.
I mean,
I
from
can tell you.
I mean, I'm sure there's probably something more. I was just under the impression that it's just like that was their code for, like this is supernatural shit.
Oh yeah.
And so anytime anyone throws it out, they're trying to hint to another character, like, hey, this has to do with the Black Lodge, in one way or another.
Yeah.
Or it could have something to do with like the mother in that box, because there was specifically a Blue Rose like in there, and that was kind of like an ominous.
And the
like,
woman says like
force.
my mother is nearby or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's other recurring imagery that we've had too, like the pale horse that we don't quite have a connection for. But yeah, I will say the pale horse, we kind of talked about its mythological connotations, as this harbinger of death and stuff. The blue rose has a significance in some mythologies as it's a thing that is not naturally occurring. It doesn't exist. It doesn't just exist on its own, and so yeah, that's mythologically that's what that means. But there are some things that we'll kind of learn this season too about that.
Did we see one of the last scenes? Is it her name Tammy? Was that her name? The FBI agent?
Yeah.
She's looking at the fingerprints, and she has Cooper and Nega Cooper, and she's comparing the prints. And I think I caught that they're mirror images. Is that
There's
what I was
something,
saying?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
I think
she
like
definitely
they
catches
were
something.
flipped or something, and I think that was what she kind of raised her eyebrow, like something is
Yeah.
weird about this,
Yeah,
because they're supposed to be the same set of prints. But yeah,
Exactly.
So she's obviously piecing something together or trying to.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's also the fingerprints, the military access fingerprints, and we get the scene with Navy, right? Is that Briggs
Yes.
in the Navy or Air Force?
Well, I think he's in the Air Force.
Yeah. It's the military scene,
Yeah.
and they're like, we learn that his prints have shown up so many times, but those fingerprints came from the dead body, correct? Is
Yes.
that where
Yeah.
those?
Yeah,
It's the John Doe that
Yeah.
they're trying to ID.
I mean, it's not explicitly connected in these episodes, but it is like, oh, those prints on the body were pegged by the military, and then the military's like, hey, we pegged these prints and they're Garland Briggs, but no one else knows
right? Yeah.
yet, but we know
That his headless body was in a bed.
Well, and we haven't seen the only other time we've seen his head is clearly floating through space while the rest of him is in South Dakota. Lucky head.
I mean, and we've got, what was the woman's name at that apartment?
Ruth
librarian.
Davenport.
Yeah. I wonder if her body will be with his head somewhere else.
It's in space.
If Cooper had just stuck around a little longer, then you would have seen the body come floating past.
Wait for me.
That looks like the body of a librarian.
Yeah. So, great. Well, we're gonna continue watching. We'll watch the next 2 episodes for next week. If you have any theories or ideas, send them to us at rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at rewatcherspod. We'll take a quick break, do a real brief recommendations thing. I've got some stuff to talk about for sure. But yeah, so we'll see you after the music. Welcome back to the recommendation section of this beloved podcast. Marcus is going to start us off. Marcus, what's your recommendation for this week?
Wow, I'm so happy I have the honor. I didn't get to watch too much this week, but I did watch the Woodstock documentary on Netflix.
Oh, cool.
Which was pretty. It was pretty well done. I enjoyed it. I enjoy thinking about. I just relating kind of people in our day to the past and learning about those sorts of things. And I don't know, I was just thinking a lot about like the 70s and 60s and stuff, and like how we were doing a lot of crazy shit. Like we had lead in our gasolines that was killing people and stuff. And I think about the kind of stuff that we're doing today that in the future we're probably going to look back on and be like, what in the world were we thinking? You know?
Is this about vaping? Are you talking about vaping?
So I don't know if our listeners know this, but we vape pretty hardcore while we do the podcast.
We can barely see each other while we're doing this.
You guys can see each other?
Justin's got a 4-foot tall rig he's spitting out. It's amazing.
But no, just kind of random stuff like that.
Right.
But it was enjoyable. I say if that strikes your interest, check it out.
Cool. And is it about? It's about this festival. Is it about those days specifically, or kind of like before and after? Like...
It's a little bit of everything.
Okay,
what I
cool.
enjoyed most was kind of showing the people who created it and set it up, and just the crazy stuff that happened. You know, 500,000 people came. They were not expecting that. It was super unprepared and good stuff.
Cool.
Interesting
Okay.
stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Riley, did you have something?
Last night, this is like an older, it's not like a new show, but my family was rewatching The Good Place, and if you haven't watched it, you should probably give it a try. It's
great
super
stuff.
good.
It's ending after
really
season
good.
4. It's going to be a very
Ending
nice
this
Yeah.
fall, yeah.
Yeah.
it's
It's a
going to be
great
4
show.
13-episode seasons, which I think is like a beautiful amount for a rewatch. Because like if you rewatch like a British sitcom that's only 6 episodes and there's like Catastrophe, there's only 4 seasons, like, man, that goes by quick. The Good Place to me is like just enough that you can almost do what you do with Friends in the Office, but it doesn't take all your time.
And it
Yeah.
also, it's not worn out. It hasn't
Right,
worn itself
exactly.
out. Like, I'm still so excited to watch every episode of The Good Place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that show. Cool. That's a good one. Tyler?
I watched a movie that has been on my list forever. I finally got around to watching Aguirre, The Wrath of God,
Oh, nice.
which is a Werner Herzog film.
Really?
It's really old, German film. And I just saw it on Amazon Prime. I'm like, well, I don't want to watch this, but I don't know if it's going to stay. and I know it's been on my list for so long that I just had to watch it. So, very different than I thought it was going to be. It is a lot more. It's a lot smaller of a film, which is weird to say because it still feels kind of like
an epic or something.
Watching it and knowing like Werner Herzog and knowing like when it was made, how little money it was made for, which was made for like under $400,000. It's like hard to like how did they fake some of this stuff? Like it's very fascinating. I want to do a lot more research on the production of this film because you see things like would have been bonkers, the film, I bet.
What's it about? It's not a documentary, is it?
It's a historical drama about some Spanish conquistadors who kind of break off from their group because they're not doing so well on their trip through the Amazon. They're hunting for El Dorado. And then there's like a mutiny. It's really just almost more of a character piece on like the descent into madness of Aguirre, the main character, mostly. Really fascinating. Most of it takes place on the Amazon River on rafts. It's really weird. Like apparently he wrote it in 2 days. He was on a bus ride and he just wrote the script in 2 days. And
Man.
Yeah, and it's good. It wasn't as phenomenal as I thought it was going to be, but it's still really good. Very, very just interesting, great performances, which is weird because it was all shot in English, but it's dubbed over in German. And then I was reading English subtitles, because it's Spanish conquistadors made by a German filmmaker, and the only language all the actors shared was English, so they just shot it in English. But then the audio was so bad, I guess, that they just went back over in German. And
Interesting. Wow.
but yeah, it's good if you're a film buff, especially. I feel like it's a must watch because it's just like a weird staple in that time frame of German cinema, and just it's really bizarre. It's really fun to watch and be like, how the hell did they film this? Like, cool. So yeah,
Cool. Awesome. Mitchell?
I'm all about the search for El Dorado. Go watch Lost City of Z from last year. I watched two things. I watched Shoplifters, which is a Japanese film from last year. Did you watch this for Oscar prep? So it was nominated for the best foreign film. It's Japanese, and it's kind of about a misfit family of sorts that pretty much are trying to figure out what to do in modern Tokyo, which is very expensive, and it does such a good job of showing the gray areas of what a family is and what a non-family is. And I think it resonated even more in Japan just because they, even more so than us, have a little bit of a greater loyalty and commitment to family. And so I think... What was that?
Just a ghost.
It's legitimately not like one. Anyway, it's called Shoplifters. Like, fantastic performances as well. Like, I want to see what else those people have been in that might kind of come up my alley, but really well done. The kids are super superb, and it's just fun to watch them. Why are you all laughing? My other recommendation is don't give your exes your passwords to things.
All right, Justin, do you have anything?
I don't know.
Wait a minute. Wait.
No, I just logged into my Netflix for a second. I was like, oh, did I watch anything else this week I'd want to mention? And I was like, who that? And I was like, all right. I mean, it's just, it's whatever. I also want to know if any of you guys had tried starting the Carnival Row show on Amazon. I think you're gonna hate it.
I saw the name Cara Delevingne and I was like, fuck this. I'm not gonna spend any more time watching her.
Valerian in 1,000 Planets.
Fuck you.
Look at his face. Oh, I wish.
Fuck out of here.
Face right now.
Holy shit.
from the best director of sci-fi of all time.
Fuck you! The Fifth Element's not as good as you remember.
I never remembered it good to all of you out there.
Yeah, you guys.
You don't like. I've been getting so many ads for that show. That's the one with
that's how you
Orlando.
That's
yeah.
how you know. First of all, they've already ordered a second season, which is, I bet they're questioning that. And that's the thing is, like, I don't hate it. I'm 3.5 in, and I'll probably finish it. I don't really know, but it is so self-serious and so dark and so clearly an immigration propaganda story, which is fine. Like I'm not saying that as a bad propaganda, but I'm like, hey, we get what you're doing here, but man, it is a weird swing, but some of it is really well done. Like, they put a shitload of money into it, so not a lot of things look this cool, but it's just a story, and I don't call things predictable very often. I'm just like, we know where it's going, guys. Let's be a little bit more interesting in this. But they've built a really big world, so I'm like, if I like the end of the season and there's another, it's just to me, if you're talking about streaming wars and the swings people are going to start taking, it's just an interesting thing, because they weren't setting up as the next Thrones, but every fantasy that you spend a lot of money on and you paid Orlando Bloom to be in is clearly like a thought towards this could be a big reason people will want to watch Amazon Prime.
Yeah. One of the TV critics I like to read the most, probably, her name's Joanna Robinson. She writes for Vanity Fair, but she tweeted about that show, and she's like, "Listen, you may not like this show, but this show was made for steampunk cosplayers, and don't underestimate the fan base that you can build out of steampunk cosplayers." I was like, that tells me everything I need to know about that show, and I will not be watching.
It's steampunk Narnia with sex. That is not right. And
I'm in.
You got me interested now.
It. I did want to also mention the Chappelle special, which if you've ever been offended by anything, don't watch it.
Do watch it.
But like the man, everyone's like, "Oh, this is just more Chappelle." I'm like, honestly, I think he goes much harder than he went in his last two specials, in my opinion.
For sure.
Anyway, I'll stop talking.
Yeah, okay. My recommendations are a little different this week. I'm going to recommend a video game that I've been playing.
If we're doing video game
What the
recommendations,
hell?
I have been
I didn't
holding
know this
back
was-
because
Okay, this is going to turn into a whole other podcast that...
when I say I
I
don't
don't
have
understand.
recommendations, it's because I've spent my time playing games, not watching movies.
If they're entertainment recommendations, I don't think the line was ever drawn.
So I got this
okay.
cool YouTube video.
Oh, gosh. We recommended TikTok weeks ago.
Yeah, we did.
Why the fuck did you not think we could recommend a better software than TikTok?
When the internet goes down, Google lets you play this game where you're a dragon and you jump over. Man.
T-Rex, get it right, man.
Oh, sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
but I've been playing Control this week, which is a new video game from the studio that made Max Payne and Alan Wake and Quantum Break. And
Oh, you know that hit Quantum Break? Yeah.
I do hate Quantum Break, but Alan Wake is in my top 10 from last generation, I think.
Alan Wake is a good time.
Yeah, it's just a great tone and wonderful storytelling, wonderful environmental storytelling. And this is like even better than that. And in some ways, I'm crossing my fingers, just turns out to be a really incredible way to bring Alan Wake back to my TV in a few years. But Control is basically you play this girl. It just drops you right into this game. You start as this girl who has entered this building called the Federal Bureau of Control, and she is there. She reveals in the first 5 minutes to find her brother who disappeared 17 years ago. And you walk into this federal building that is completely empty, which is a weird thing for a federal building to be, and weird shit begins to happen. And it's basically the whole game is set in this building that they call the oldest house that is constantly changing and shifting around. And it's got cool telekinesis powers and incredible writing. It's literally a game I've just run around, and every collectible I've picked up, I've stopped and read through like pages of redacted documents about weird shit that's happened in the building and other stuff. And it's just a really delightful game. It's probably easily my favorite game that I've played this year so far. But yeah, and it's really great, and it's got that cool X-Files, tone and flavor to it, while also being kind of goofy.
That sounds like the direct sequel to the Tom Hanks, Emma Watson film, The Circle. So you have me sold.
Don't ruin this for me,
I forgot
Mitchell.
that was even a thing.
And don't ruin the circle either. Okay, some people haven't seen it.
Well, that's good to know, because I've been on the edge of like whether I was gonna get, because I got burned by Quantum Break. I feel like I was so excited for it, and I just did not like it.
I'm glad I came late to Quantum Break and only paid like $10 for it used, because I got about 4 hours in and was like, nope, I'm out. So this is very good. I think really fun to play, and the writing is fucking sensational.
Is it first person, third person?
Third person.
Third person.
Yeah.
Okay.
So third person. There's a lot of cool movement stuff. And the gameplay is good. Like, the gameplay is good. It's not the highlight. There's some really great things about it, but for me, the world and the writing in it is just fantastic. The other thing, I'm going to recommend another weird thing, which is a book I read called Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. And it's a fictional account of Abraham Lincoln's son's death, which we know very little about, but kind of the facts that we do know, his son died during the Civil War, not in the Civil War, but his 9-year-old son died of typhoid, I believe, and famously after they had buried him, or they'd put him in this mausoleum, he went back very late at night, got the key to the mausoleum, went in and pulled his son's body out and held it and wept. And it's like this story that became very powerful. George Saunders has decided to take that event and build this whole novel around the idea that there are these spirits there at the cemetery who witnessed this happen. And it's all about kind of dealing with life after death and what that means to us as a society, how we deal with that, and also the idea that it's still something that we won't have figured out after we die. But it's this fascinating book. It's really cool. It's a pretty easy read, pretty short, but it's really fantastic, and I loved it. So those are my recommendations. Justin, I'm going to give you a chance again. Do you have any recommendations? Do you have anything you want to?
All right. So
let me pull out my Steam list.
Yeah. I started up Darkest Dungeon again this week, and I got burned out on it a while ago, but it's been calling my name again. So I started grinding that again. And if you like a narrator who has a really amazing voice and kind of like I don't know, like it's got sort of this, what's the genre I'm looking for? Like there's like Cthulhu type of stuff. Lovecraftian.
Like gothic horror.
Yeah, gothic horror. Yeah, there we go. Gothic horror. If you like that, if you like gameplay that is absolutely not going to hold your hand and is brutal and is going to make you say lots of swear words, then this game is for you. I would recommend it.
Yeah.
That it is a recommendation, but man, is it tough.
If you like systems, if you're a systems guy,
inventory management is a big part of the game.
Yeah.
It
might take you a while to finish based on all the jerking off you're going to be doing, because man, this game has got systems upon systems upon systems.
There are mods for it that you can get that kind of make that they're like quality of life stuff that if you just want to see the game, to play it and experience it, because I think it is something that is worth experiencing.
It's really cool.
There are mods out there for it, but yeah, I would recommend that.
Okay, cool, awesome. Well, then we will take a break until next week, when we'll discuss episodes 6 and 7 of Twin Peaks Season 3. Until then, signing off, I'm Tyler Harris.
Marcus Marinos.
Riley Harris.
Tyler McKinley.
Mitchell Marshall.
Justin Hammer.
And remember, the fucks are at it again!